I'm 28M, a regular corporate employee you would find in every other cubicle in Silicon Valley. I lead a normal life with a 9-to-5 job, and household chores, and return to my nice flat after a fulfilling day at work. It's a simple routine. I have a bit of an artistic streak, you see. I am an enthusiastic guitarist who enjoys performing at nightclubs. I'm also a part-time sculptor, and my office desk has its own story. While my coworkers favor traditional office design, my desk also functions as a tiny art gallery. My workstation is adorned with exquisite sculptures that I carved myself. Their elaborate designs never fail to capture the attention of passers-by, and I'm always willing to discuss the story behind each masterpiece. But that isn't all. I have a talent for storytelling, which comes to life during lunch breaks. That's about me. Now comes Derek, 31M. He's the reason why I'm here venting out in front of strangers. He's the type of person who insists on keeping up appearances in order to blend in with the rich and famous, despite the fact that the reality is exactly the opposite. Derek drives an old, beat-up car, dresses in knockoff expensive outfits, and carries himself as if he's a multimillionaire despite the fact that he's barely scraping by. His office walls are covered with plaques that appear to be distinguished but are actually participation honors from obscure seminars. Derek is clearly attempting to portray himself as someone he is not. Derek not only participates but also dominates meetings. He dominates debates with self-aggrandizing displays and long rants. Colleagues frequently become lost in the maze of his ego. Now you'll be wondering why on earth I am writing so much about myself or about Derek. Well, the point of talking about my and Derek's personalities can make you understand my story better. Everything was going pretty well. Yes, Derek's presence was a little annoying for all of us at the office because of the dirty office politics he plays against almost everybody. But still, I had always been maintaining a good distance from his negative presence. Until a time when our working lives turned upside down. It was the promotion time of the year and we've been waiting for a promotion announcement. It's more than simply a career move for me because I had worked really hard for it. But for Derek, it's just another step toward his ambitious goal of world control. To him, the promotion has nothing to do with my efforts or the genuine value he can provide to the role. It was like his birthright, and he was willing to go to any length to take advantage of it. The issue worsened when the CEO summoned Derek to the stage and appointed him as the new senior manager of innovation. He sweet-talked the boss and manipulated the seniors to get the promotion. The room grows silent, and I stand there, astonished, as the promotion that should have been mine slips through my fingers. Derek, on the other hand, was standing there with a smug grin on his face. Derek's vanity was on full display as he took the microphone and delivered a self-indulgent acceptance speech that had everyone in the audience rolling their eyes. Meanwhile, I stood in the corner, reflecting on all those sleepless nights spent grinding my SS for the success of this organization. My dreams have been destroyed, and I have no idea how I will handle this scenario in my next projects. Because of Derek's cold and nasty behavior, I'd scarcely ever spoken to him. But now I have to physically address him like a boss and explain all of those prospective projects to him. Not only do I have to listen to his workplace gossip and chit-chat, but I also have to bear his office politics. I hope after becoming senior manager he starts taking work seriously. Amidst all these, I have a friend Sarah, 26 FO, who always has my back at the office. She approached me with empathy in her eyes, ready to support me in my time of need. She cheered me up and motivated me not to lose hope. No, we are not a thing. She is just a comfortable place where I can talk about my worries, but I still try to be careful before oversharing. She is still my coworker, and you know how things are with colleagues. That's why I'm here, where I can speak my mind without the fear of any backfire. I know office politics is real and happens everything, and I'm not unique at this position, yet it feels so terrible, right? That you work hard for the whole year and someone climbs up on your shoulder just by bootlicking the boss. I hope my prior verbal encounter with Derek about his bad behavior doesn't affect our future as a team. Derek was so happy about the promotion that he announced a big party in one of the most expensive restaurants. Well, let's see how it goes. I'll update the thread if anything significant happens. But if anyone has any tips/suggestions to navigate through this, would really appreciate it. Update 1. Derek's advancement to senior manager had a significant impact on our department. As I already stated, he wasted no time in establishing his newfound power and displaying his self-importance. The first indication of this was when he announced a grandiose promotion party to celebrate his success. Everyone in the office erupted in applause. Not that everyone was happy, but people know how to pretend in front of the new boss, but I couldn't bring myself to applaud his undeserved promotion. My rage and helplessness seemed overwhelming, but I knew I couldn't show it. Sarah, like me, was feeling the same way. We exchanged glances and continued to watch the other clowns sing Derek's praise song. So, when Derek announced the party and we went to celebrate, I assumed it was the only issue I had to deal with. I planned to express my wishes with a fake smile and then return home. But this guy had other ideas. The day following the promotion party, an email was circulated around our team in which our new star, Derek, stated that this promotion was a credit to the team's collaborative efforts and that it was a team win and that everyone should pay for the overall party expenses. It was an act of solidarity and teamwork, in his words. This was utter rubbish. I thought everyone would be against it, and we could easily complain to the management about it. But, to my surprise, the majority of the team members had already agreed to pitch in. I mean, this is ridiculous. Why should we pay for something which we have not signed for? It was his idea to host a grand success party for himself. If he was so keen to share his achievements, he should rather share his raise with his coworkers than extort money from us in the name of collaborative effort. When I brought this up with Sarah, she told me that Derek had been making grandiose and phony promises about new ideas that would benefit all of us on the team. I sometimes wonder how easy it is to dupe people when you have power. We all understood deep down that even though he was a senior manager, he didn't have the authority to implement any of those ridiculous changes in the office, but we all had to contribute to his victory celebration, including me. I don't know how I'm going to deal with him, but it is evident that I have to find a way to collaborate with him, even if the thought makes me sick. I have to work with him if I want to stay in this company. Update 2. Guys, it's not getting any better. I assumed I'd just have to deal with this guy from 9 to 5, but he had other ideas for me. I've always felt that our personal and professional lives should never be mixed. However, I suppose this individual feels that a man should have no personal life at all. Because I found myself working late into the night, unable to keep up with the extra job Derek had brutally imposed on me. It seems that Derek had decided that I am his go-to person for overtime and extra work, and he isn't taking no for an answer. My nights, which had previously been dedicated to exploring my artistic interests, were now devoured by the demands of the office. Guitar lessons and sculpting sessions have faded into the background, replaced with countless spreadsheets, reports, and conference calls. His demands are ridiculous, and it is evident that he is abusing his power to take advantage of my loyalty to the organization. My personal life is deteriorating, and I miss the days when I could pursue my artistic interests and relax with my friends. After another long day at the workplace, I received a phone call from my best friend. He'd invited me to join him and a few old friends for a jam session at a neighborhood bar, which we used to do on a regular basis before Derek's promotion-induced work pressure took over my life. Derek was working from home that day, so Sarah suggested she finish one of my unfinished duties while I went to the party. She watched my exhaustion and frustration as I juggled my work and home duties. I felt such a relief to reunite with my friends and my music for the first time in what seemed like an eternity. I almost forgot about my miserable office life and the villain of my life, Derek. When the jam session ended, I couldn't help but think about the duties I'd left unfinished at work that Sarah had to finish. When I returned home, I was feeling restless with the thought that I couldn't let Derek's power play take over my life outside of the job. I wanted to go back to the bar and play more, but I had work on the next day. It was obvious that balancing my job and personal interests would be difficult, but I don't know why I felt I couldn't allow my artistic spirit to wither away. The next day, I woke up determined not to compromise on my personal life even if it meant defying Derek's ridiculous expectations. I left early for work so that I could talk about it with Sarah. Not only had Sarah arrived early, but so had Derek. Derek began ranting at me as soon as I walked in, telling me how the last report had been escalated because I had requested Sarah to do it on my behalf without Derek's authorization. Sarah was already sobbing and apologizing in a corner. It took me a moment to grasp the gravity of the situation. Sarah had missed a minor detail in the report which led to its escalation. Sarah and I wanted to double-check the filed report, but Derek was not a listener. He dismissed our request, insisting that it was my fault because I had left on my typical 9 to 5 office time schedule. He claimed that my extra hours were required to fulfill his lofty ambitions. Derek's purpose became increasingly clear: make himself appear good at whatever cost, even if it meant jeopardizing the well-being of his team members. I think I have to just forget about living and enjoying my personal life if I want to sustain in this company. I know a lot of you suggested that I switch the company. I know it's an easier fix, but the thing is I have worked for 5 years in this company and I don't want to leave it just because some jerk feels entitled to exploit me. I want to stay and prove my mettle. Otherwise, it would just be like running away from the situation. I don't want to give him that sense of satisfaction. Call it ego or whatever, but this is how it is. Update 3. I know it's been a long since I updated, but a lot has happened since my last update. Derek is not only making my life terrible, but practically every team member is now having problems with his method of working. Good for me to have allies. Derek's constant power play at work had pushed me over the edge, but what he did next was beyond my imagination. It was as if he sensed what I valued and decided to use it against me. Derek approached me one day, seemingly out of nowhere, with an appealing idea. "Jake, I have a very important project that I believe aligns perfectly with your skills and aspirations. It's a fantastic project, and I believe you're the right person to lead it." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He outlined a project that I had secretly hoped to work on for years. It was an opportunity to combine my artistic talents with my professional knowledge, and I was overjoyed at the thought of making this goal a reality. I eagerly agreed to take on the job, not expecting that it would turn out to be a double-edged sword. I threw my heart and everything into this project throughout the next few months. Late nights, early mornings, and copious amounts of coffee were my daily habit. Every element was carefully made, and every aspect was carefully analyzed. I worked with Sarah, who who was just as determined and passionate about the project as I was. The big day has finally arrived for the project presentation. I stood in front of a room full of colleagues, supervisors, and clients, feeling both excited and scared. I was going to reveal the finished product of my dream project, the result of countless hours of hard labor and ingenuity. Hi, as I started sharing my screen, Derek stood up, thanked me for sharing the screen, and took over the presentation, describing the project as if it were his idea. He spoke with confidence and enthusiasm, but the lack of my name struck me the most. It was as if I had never existed during the project's development. He made no mention of my involvement. Derek was now presenting my dream project I had put my heart and soul into. As the presentation ended, I was left in a state of shock. Derek got all the applause and compliments for his genius work. Sarah and I exchanged puzzled looks, knowing we'd been dealt a severe blow. Derek's manipulation had reached new heights, and my dream had been taken. It was a devastating betrayal. I don't think after this betrayal I can even stand this man. This is the highest level of betrayal I have experienced to date. I think it's high time that I do something about him or just leave this job. I know I was being preachy about not leaving the job in my earlier update because I was hopeful that I would figure out a way to sail through, but this looks really murky. Moreover, it is taking a toll on my mental peace. I have also started thinking if this job is even worth it. Update 4. After the presentation thing, I had already made up my mind to leave the position. But Sarah advised me that leaving this company would be a bad idea. Sarah believes it is past time for us to stand up to his evil intent and not allow his deception to continue. It was time to fight back, expose the truth, and get our revenge. We began to strategize, brainstorming ways to gather evidence of Derek's deceit. It was a risky endeavor, but we couldn't let him continue to thrive on lies and manipulation. The conflict between Derek and me on the other hand escalated with each passing day. He continued to display entitled and narcissistic behavior without remorse. He reveled in my setbacks, taking every opportunity to humiliate me. He made a mockery of my ideas, took credit for my work, and openly belittled my efforts. The workplace became a toxic environment, and the tension between us grew daily. But I kept quiet because the first step was to gather concrete evidence of Derek's deceit. Sarah and I decided to team up. We started our mission by meticulously documenting every interaction, conversation, and piece of correspondence related to the dream project. Every email, chat log, and document was archived, and we even began recording our conversations with Derek whenever possible, all while staying discreet and cautious. Sarah and I were diligent in our efforts, gathering a trove of evidence that showcased Derek's manipulative tactics and arrogance. We documented every instance of him taking credit for our colleagues' achievements and undermining their efforts. It was essential to build an airtight case against him. The next step was to strategize. Sarah and I spent late nights brainstorming ways to expose Derek's manipulations. We knew that we couldn't confront him directly, that would only make him more cunning and cover his tracks better. Instead, we had to outsmart him. One evening, as Sarah and I were sifting through company emails, we stumbled upon a goldmine of deceit. Remember the escalation that Derek said was created by Sarah when I left home early for my jamming session? We found out that the report Sarah submitted was correct. It was Derek who mistakenly changed a few values in the final report that caused the escalation. Normally I'm the one who loses temperament easily, but after seeing this evidence it was Sarah who wanted to punch Derek straight on his face. After comforting her with water and cracking some old-time jokes, we both laughed because we knew now the time was going to change for sure. So with all those shreds of evidence, we went straight to the HR and discussed everything with the HR manager. He was shocked too after knowing all this. HR, being my friend, told us that as an HR he just has the authority to issue a warning letter to him. And he will have to ask Derek to send an apology mail to both of us. So according to him, that won't be enough punishment for him. He suggested that if somehow, we could share the incident with the director of the Innovation F team, then things might turn far better than imagined. We decided to come up with a great innovation project, develop it, and then pitch it to Derek. He, being the gold digger, looked for such an opportunity that could give him the free limelight. The goal was to entice Derek into presenting it, thinking he could take credit for yet another project. But when Derek asked us to share the details of the project, we manipulated the data, which had multiple loopholes. We also didn't explain the project in depth to Derek, giving him just a superficial view. We were scared that Derek might find out those myths, but he didn't. You see, that's why we call him undeserving. The day of the presentation finally arrived, and we could barely contain our excitement. The room was filled with team members and colleagues, all eager to hear about the project we had created. We have a policy that every project presentation happens in the presence of the director, so he was there too. Derek, always seeking the limelight, was more than willing to take the stage. As he launched into the presentation, his confidence shone through. He presented the fabricated project with the same charisma and arrogance he had displayed during my dream project presentation. The room watched in rapt attention, and Sarah and I shared secretive smiles, knowing our plan was unfolding perfectly. However, as Derek delved deeper into the presentation, he started making factual errors about the project. The audience grew increasingly perplexed, and it was clear that Derek had fallen into our trap. When Derek couldn't explain the facts and figures properly to the director and others, I stepped up and corrected him and gave the logical reason behind it. I also took over the screen from Derek and presented mine showing the real numbers. I told Derek that he was showing the previous version of the project which had errors and that I and Sarah have fixed them in the newest version. The director asked me if it was I who had done the project. I said yes, it was I and Sarah who did this. The director then asked Derek why our names were not mentioned and credit was not given to us. Derek tried to save his face and turn the table around me. He said he had asked me to mention our names in the credit section but I hadn't added it. I too played it smart and said I thought it was a norm that Derek presented my project because the last few projects also met a similar fate where Derek got all the credit and my name was not mentioned, not even verbally. The room fell into stunned silence, and Derek's face turned several shades of red. It was a moment of sweet victory. Our revenge was not only a public humiliation for Derek but also a moment of redemption for my dream project, which had been wrongly stolen from me. The director left the room asking Derek to follow him to his cabin. Then after 15 to 20 minutes, I was called to his cabin. Derek was still sitting there and the director asked me to present the previous projects which I claimed were mine. I gladly opened my laptop and presented the project. I answered all the critical questions he had related to the project. Actually, Derek told the director that I was lying to ruin Derek's reputation and grab the limelight. But the truth was uncovered. I was then asked to go back to my desk. I got a lot of high fives and kudos from my team for standing up for myself. The next day Derek didn't show up at work. My HR friend told me that he has sought work from home as there is an ongoing investigation against him on the charges that he manipulates others' work. The authorities have also got other complaints against him. Sa has also complained about him regarding that data manipulation escalation. Yesterday, we got the update that our team would be directly reporting to the director until a senior manager is hired or someone is promoted. As for Derek is concerned, we could not find him in the employee portal. Some say he is fired and some say he has quit because of the humiliation. I don't know what is there for me next, but at least I'm happy that now I can focus on my work without any stress of office politics.